As many of you already know, players are being banned, or soon will be banned, from competitive shooting games for using unapproved accessories like Cronus adapters. I've seen some YouTubers praising this decision as a way to weed out players who use these devices to gain an unfair advantage. There are a few voices pointing out why this is a problem for people with physical handicaps who can't play without them. However, I haven't seen anybody yet point out how much this decision curbs legitimate player choice for the rest of us. So that's what I intend to focus on here. Just full disclosure here, I don't own a Cronus adapter and I have never used an unapproved controller mod in online play. I have used some eccentric controllers in local multiplayer and always viewed that as a matter of preference rather than an advantage. First off, so we're on the same page, I should probably explain what a Cronus adapter is. It's a device that connects to a game console, or perhaps a PC, which feeds inputs to it from other devices, or generates inputs using onboard scripting. It does this by identifying itself as a controller and feeding inputs through that virtual controller in the appropriate USB protocol. The idea is that you can play controller-based games with a mouse and keyboard, or play one console with another console's controller, etc. Of course, those of you who think of Cronus as a cheating device probably think it's very convenient how little time I spent on macro scripting so far. It's true that such devices are capable of doing things like auto-triggering combo moves or recoil control bias. However, I don't give a lot of weight to that. I judge the purpose of these devices a little differently, and I'll explain why. For as long as I have owned home game consoles, since about 1994, I've used plenty of third-party controllers. I didn't really care for the stock controller designs of some systems, such as N64s. Back then it was commonplace to have third-party controllers with unique designs and special features like being wireless. Aside from more obvious designs like the 2-grip N64 controllers, I've used one-handed glove controller, infrared remotes, etc. I had a few controllers which could replay macros also, a few Mad Catz microcons, but I don't recall ever actually using macros. At some point I became attached to the design of PlayStation's official controllers. They were lightweight, symmetrical, and used convex analog tops that did not bite on extreme movements like the concave type more commonly used today. I actually got an adapter that could connect PlayStation controllers to my GameCube and had a blast with it. I ended up getting a similar adapter to use those PlayStation controllers on my PC. PS2 had a long life with lots of interesting accessories. These PlayStation controller adapters made that whole suite of controllers portable between systems, in addition to just letting me use my favorite basic controller. Fast forward to 2006. I had skipped the original Xbox, but when Chrome Hounds came out, I was convinced to get a 360. When Armored Core 4 came out, I wanted to play it on the same style of controller as the earlier games in the series, i.e. PlayStation. Between that and the Linux Sandbox, I ended up getting a PS3. If this had been a normal console generation, I probably would have only wanted one machine or the other, but in order to play exclusive games and use exclusive accessories, I ended up getting both. It wasn't until after this exercise in sunk cost fallacy that I learned about the Cronus adapter. I did end up begrudgingly using those Xbox 360 controllers a lot because I got into Chrome Hounds for most of the 3 years it operated, and other exclusives like the Halo series. Considering how many Xbox controllers I broke and replaced and the number of AA batteries I went through before I got proper rechargeables, using the Cronus adapter with my PS2 controllers and the USB adapter probably would have been a better experience for me. Imagine in an alternate universe that I decided instead of buying a PS3 to just get a Cronus adapter and play those 360 games with non-360 controllers. I only would have missed 3 PS3 exclusive games and would have saved like $450. We're not talking about adding macro scripting or anything like that. Keep in mind that I mostly played a mech game that was too slow for any of that to provide an advantage. Under the kind of rules that companies like Bungie are implementing now, this would be bannable. No macros, no unfair advantages, just playing with a controller of my choice. This is mostly hypothetical for me now because I've moved on to PC gaming, where such restrictions are rare, at least for now. Between ports and emulators, there's effectively no such thing as console exclusivity anymore, at least in the long run. One machine with 1 or 2 input devices mostly plays everything. However, on the rare occasion that I play consoles today, I'm still a zealot about controller portability. I still use PS2 controllers on my brother's Xbox One, etc. I even bought a PS2 to Xbox 360 adapter that came out after I wasn't really playing a lot of 360 games anymore. All of this raises a question. Why weren't there dumb adapter options like this back when Xbox 360 was popular? The answer is legal maneuvering. In order to maintain a monopoly on the designs and probably profits of Xbox 360 controllers, Microsoft relied on a novel legal theory. Approved Xbox 360 accessories contained a secret key that was required to handshake with the console successfully. If a third party wanted to produce an accessory, they needed a license agreement, and Microsoft wielded the DMCA against companies that didn't have a license. I don't imagine any of the politicians who contributed to the DMCA ever envisioned it being used like this, and it would appear that the courts agree. After a similar decision against Lexmark, Microsoft's DMCA theory was shot down during their 2009 litigation with Daytel over memory cards. It was only after that decision that the device I ended up buying was created. Until then, a Cronus adapter was the only option. Cronus was born out of an effort to enable third-party controllers without tripping in Microsoft's legal minefield. On an Xbox 360, it required a 360 controller, with the key, to initialize it. It required multiple USB ports, multiple input protocols, and this design made it capable of working in many different configurations. However, this design pretty much circumvented all limits. The scripting could feed pretty much any input desired, so it would enable the kinds of mods you might consider cheating. Now we return to the present day. Some players in Call of Duty and Destiny 2 apparently use Cronus adapters for things like enabling aim assist by spoofing a controller, and automatically resisting weapon recoil. Supposedly, these companies have been quietly monitoring who uses Cronus adapters in multiplayer, and there's some statistical evidence that there is an unfair advantage. However, since some of that unfair advantage comes from the game's designs, for example, aim assist for controller players, I view this as a failing of the games themselves and Cronus as a scapegoat. I think the ultimate solution is for these games to adjust the skill tier and assist features applied to players who use these mods rather than ban them or give them an intentionally sabotaged experience. What do you think? Do you consider these Cronus adapters to be cheating devices, legitimate, or both? If you use a mod like this, how do you use it and what has your experience been like? Have you had a bad experience where someone else used these devices to cheat against you? Leave a comment below.